everybody should have a Gita. Huh? Om. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was learning by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters of the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us. O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers. And the milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hare Om Tat Sat. We pick up here. This is where we closed on Tuesday morning. Discussion on Sutra 26, Sloka 26. A wise person will not disturb the mind of an unwise person who is still attached to the fruits of his or her actions, but rather by performing perfect or selfless actions, the wise person influences others in all that they do. So we had discussion on that Tuesday morning. So we'll pick up with 27. The qualities of nature, calmness, restlessness, inertia, do all that is done. And we had some discussion about this, yes. We were talking again about the wall. But because the mind is clouded by ego, a person thinks, I am the doer. Arjuna, one may intuit the relationship between nature's qualities, gunas, and action, karma. Whoever does so knows that nature as the senses merely abides with nature, the sense objects. That person identifies with neither and thus does not become entangled. Those still deluded by nature's qualities become attached to nature's functions, but one of perfect understanding should not disturb the mind of someone who does not know better. And then Lord Krishna gives cure. It says, dedicate all of your actions to me, and then your mind will rest in the Swarupa, in the self, Atman, free of the wishing and selfishness fever, and you can engage in battle. Whoever lives by these teachings with faith and without complaining will transcend karma. And he continues on the same vein, so we can take some discussion. There's a beautiful commentary that we'll get to as well. So whoever lives by these teachings with faith and without complaining will transcend karma. So there's discussion of the nature and the senses and the relationship between the senses and the objects, right? We're hearing that discussion, okay. So that's all relating to the function of nature. That's the function of nature. The senses are of nature and the sense objects are of nature. And remember we had some discussion? The sense objects are actually of the senses. So where there is an ear, there has to be something to hear. So the sense, as it were, manifests the sense object in order to have that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Recognize it.
Where there is an eye, there has to be something to see.
Or else it wouldn't be an eye.
Or else there would be an eye.
And there is no I. I'm sorry.
A little i's imaginary. So, now speaking of the gunas, the qualities of the things. So, do we notice that that someone who's passionate, the senses will be drawn to objects that incite passion. The senses will be drawn to objects that incite passion, right? So that's speaking to the qualities of nature and the nature of the person, right? The one who has dullness, tamas, will tend to go towards those objects that are
low.
in the same way. And the one who's sattvic, who has the sattvic mindset, will tend to go towards objects that are sattvic, but also seeing the sattvic quality in them. So this is the relationship between the senses. And we continue on this line. He says, whoever lives by these teachings with faith and without complaining will transcend karma. Understand, this happens in nature. But what's being shared is the guidance is, don't take your reality from that process. That's a natural process, but it's not who you are. It's a natural process. It's going on. It's always going on. But it doesn't relate to who you are. It relates to the person, to the personage, to the process, to nature itself. And so he speaks then to the cure, which is, dedicate all of your actions to me, then your mind will rest in the self. Regardless of what's happening, your mind will rest in self, capital S self. Or rest in me, you could say it like that. Will rest in me, or rest in Krishna. Free of the wishing and selfishness fever. Can you relate to that?
Yes.
It's a fever, right?
Sickness. A sickness.
A sickness. All of this stuff about needing to have something in order to be, and fill it in always. We don't say it, but in order to be what? In order to be happy, in order to be full. We need something. We need someone to treat us a certain way, right? We need this to happen. We need to be able to go there. This is all relationship between the senses and the sense objects, isn't it?
Yes.
Constant, right? So, and look at how many objects the mind will project that are needed because the one that I got didn't do it. Right? The one that I got didn't do it. Somebody was really, really nice to me, and then they said something to me that bothered me. And so, no happiness for me. Now I need something else. Right? It's a fever. That's what's being described. It's a fever. So save yourself from the fever, he says. Free of this wishing and selfishness fever. I wish they would treat me this way. I wish they would say this to me. I wish they would do this. I wish I could have that. If only. How many times have we heard in this inner world, if only? Right? If only I would have gotten that job. If only I would have had that person as my partner. If only I would have had a different this or that. You can fill in anything, right? If only. It's the same. It's that wishing fever, isn't it? You see it? And there's no end to it. This is the wheel of samsara. If only I would have had that car. I mean, I can go through my list and I could keep you entertained for a while.
So that's really the
But we all have our lists, yes? Oh. Sorry?
Oh, I was just saying that's really the turning. It's not nature, it's the selfish thoughts.
Yeah, and by the way, nature goes on. Nature goes on. It's this fever that we're suffering from, related to the soul taking nature to be the nature of the self, of the soul. Confusing the objects with the subject. So, and I, Krishna, am the subject. I and you are one. I and the Father are one. So keep your mind on me. Dedicate yourself to me. Dedicate all of the actions to me. Dedicate the fruit of all of the actions to me. And save yourself from this fever.
Yeah. So cool that there's an antidote right there. You know, it talks about the fever, and that just happens so much in the Gita, where I hear the sickness, and then the antidote is like right there.
Right.
Very simple too. Not easy maybe, but very simple.
And it's very simple. It's not easy because of the habits, because of how we've become habituated. That's the only reason it's not easy. So, and it's this constant expectation, rooted in delusion, this constant expectation of happiness, which honestly we have a right to expect, but you can't expect it from a temporal object, and everything here constantly changing, right?
So that would be the discovery that happiness is ever existing within.
So dedicate all of your actions to me, then your mind will rest in me, free of the wishing and selfishness fever, and you can engage in battle. Now he's talking to Arjuna about the battle in the field, but you can engage in your life, you can engage in your duty, you can engage in, right? And then you won't have the fever.
And the battle can also be the battle of changing those habits.
Right.
You know, against the habits.
It is that as well. Whoever lives by these teachings with faith and without complaining. We must say this again. Because when we don't get what we want or what we expect, we have the potential to go into this terrible place. Right? You see? And when we go into this terrible place, there's this complaining, if only, and this is this if only stuff. This person, they did this, and then dualities everywhere. They did this, they said this. They took this opportunity away.
It seems like once the complaining train starts, it just gains steam.
It feeds on itself.
Yes.
I noticed that yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh. I let it go too far.
So with faith and without complaining. Here, Kartikeya, would you please? It's time. To read the quote.
This is called practical wisdom. And it says, see nothing, look at nothing but your goal ever shining before you. The things that happen to us do not matter. What we become through them does. Each day, accept everything as coming from God. At night, give everything back into His hands. Jnana.
Thank you, dear. So Lord Krishna is also teaching us that there's only one doer. We had this discussion on Tuesday, that the Lord is doing everything, right? That nature is doing everything. And nature and the Lord are one. So nature is really of the Lord, of God. So nature is the doer of everything here. God is the doer of everything. I do nothing. The little I do nothing. It's all, and we took some time, right? It's all universal. All the factors that we're dealing with are universal factors. And it's not my mind. It's not my prana. It's not my hand. It's not my tongue. It's not my speech, right? None of it is mine. It's all universal factor. So that universal factor, the head of the universal factors, is the only doer that there is. It's pure logic.
Myself.
When we can let go of this ego stuff long enough, we can see, right, it's all universal factors that are acting out here. So I'm not doing. So who's doing? The Lord is doing everything. Everything that's done to me, the Lord is doing it. So I learned a new way on pilgrimage. It had started before then, but if you walk a pilgrimage, it's beautiful in this way. Because in truth, you don't have control over the things that happen to you. You don't have control over what someone says. You don't have control over what someone does. You don't. In truth, you don't. But because of this idea that if I'm treated in a certain way, I'll be happy, or if I get this, or if I get that, and so we'll continue to strive to get that, we end up at odds with the nature, right? But I'm going to get what I get. I'm going to get it I'm going to be given it based upon my prior karmas, my prior choices, according to the Lord's rules. So, as a pilgrim, you just don't have a choice. You're there. You're out naked. You're not asking for anything. You're not carrying anything. You're just engaging in life. And people will say whatever they're going to say to you. If a car is going to run over you, a car is going to run over you. If a rock is going to fall on you, a rock is going to fall on you. It's really our situation anyway. But as a pilgrim, we have to face it, and then do I stop or do I keep going? So ego will say often stop because I'm not in control and it wants to be in control, right? But it's a very simple choice. If you go, you allow whatever is going to happen. And in the knowing that whatever happens at God's hand, this is God's hand, happens at God's hand, then, so we would have these discussions, I have no idea why you did that, but I know it was you, so it's fine. It is a great salvation. If I could give you this shot. It is the greatest salvation. That's what's being described here. So the pilgrim will also dedicate whatever's to be done today, whatever I can do, whatever I can muster. I give you all of the fruit because I'm not asking for anything anyway. So it's all yours. It's all you. It's all yours. So anything that comes to me is yours. When it's in my hands, it's yours because these are your hands. And who am I going to take? I'm going to take something? So I give it to you. So I dedicate it to you. What's to complain about? What's to complain about? It's only you.
I guess conventionally speaking, the things that could come up, there could be things that could come up.
There can be things that can come up. So whoever lives by these teachings with faith and without complaining will transcend karma. Those who don't live by these teachings, however, but look instead to criticize them, misunderstand everything. They have no discrimination, viveka, and are ruined. Even a wise person follows his or her own nature, as all beings follow their own natures. Why try to force anything to be otherwise? So the natures, we chant kirtan. Some people sometimes will get up and dance. They'll get up and dance in the back. What's wrong with that? Some people don't. What's wrong with that? Some people sing this way, some people sing that way. What's wrong with that? Some people are naturals in the garden, some people are not. What's wrong with that? Some people are really good at working out math problems and some people aren't. What's wrong with that? So remember, no two snowflakes alike. So to have an infinite world, there has to be everything. And these are the natures. This is the one nature playing out as an individuated nature. It looks like it's individual, but if you step back and look, you see it's not. It's one nature playing out in fullness, right? And so there will be every different aspect of nature within it.
What strikes me, Swami, is that if we let it, it all brings us closer to Krishna.
Oh, that's it. If we dedicate and then allow, then it all will bring us closer.
Make every moment a sacrifice.
And so it's not necessary to go against one's nature. In fact, it's not advisable. And that's the next couple of shlokas. It's not advisable.
Do your dharma.
Yeah, do your dharma. And there's a beautiful discussion of dharma coming here. But
Live according to your constitution.
live according to your constitution. Yeah.
Yes.
Because if you dedicate the actions, if you devote yourself, and if you allow what's to happen, then you'll find what's true.
Is this like when you told me at one time that if you're dying on the side of the road, just be with that and
Yeah.
allow it to be?
Just allow it to be and dedicate and devote. What to do.
I guess the one road is always to resist and try and work out what's going on in the mind and then figure out how to change it, and then that would be the other route. But I've lived my whole life on the route A, and it's very tiring. I'm very tired.
You get very tired of fighting that all the time.
Yeah.
And it's the inner flow that's needing to change, it's not the outer. It's the inner direction. So it is natural for the senses to be attracted or repulsed by various sense objects, but don't for a moment come under their domination, or surely they will be your enemies. So it's natural when some of these persons, people, like chocolate. We use chocolate as an example, or pizza or whatever. Some of them like chocolate. So it's natural for, in the sight of chocolate or the smell of chocolate, for an attraction to be experienced. But don't fall under its sway. Don't do something because there's an attraction to it. And don't refuse to do something which is your duty because there's an aversion to it. That attraction and aversion is just in the senses, and then the big sense, the mind, the nonsense. It's just there. In other words, an attraction isn't necessarily something you're supposed to do. An aversion is not necessarily something you're supposed to avoid. The duty would come first. Okay. So here, it's better to do your own dharma, calling even imperfectly, than somebody else's dharma perfectly. Even better to die in your dharma than in another's, which brings great fear. And we'll start reading this beautiful commentary from Swamiji. I think we'll finish it tomorrow morning.
Wait, it's better to die in one's own dharma than someone else's dharma.
Yeah. Indeed. Which brings great fear. And there he speaks to purpose of this physical birth, right? If we leave the body in great fear, then of course we're coming back. But we're coming back from a place of great fear. Swamiji says, is this a little confusing? What is your dharma and what is somebody else's dharma? What you're truly called to do is your dharma. It fits your aptitude, your capabilities, and your natural inclination. Constitutionally, your dharma, physical and mental, is to walk. So the constitution is in this human birth. He says, constitutionally, your dharma is to walk, physically and mental. And look at the snake. If you try to crawl like that, it's not your dharma. It might look cute, but remember that you were created to walk. Don't try to imitate a crawling species. And he says it's just a rough example. But often we come across this situation. For example, in the name of equality, we'll have the thought, I must do everything she does. Right? And you'll experience this. She's a popular person. People like her. So there will be a feeling inside of wanting to copy because we'll want that fruit.
Yeah. Why can't I be as funny as this person?
Right. He tells funny jokes. He tells them naturally. Right. Oh.
And then try and force it, and then people get mad, and then you're like,
Right.
oh.
So you see, it's a process that can happen very easily.
Yeah, it's very practical.
It is very practical. Yeah, it doesn't play out well.
I have to listen to the astrology.
Remember to get your charts from Padmasana. Oh, Doug, you should do that, by the way.
Keep the mouth shut. Keep it shut.
Before you go off. It'll be very helpful. And that's just related to this. It's not related to truth, finally. It's related to Dharma. So only then am I equal to her. If she jumps, I should jump. If she flies, I should fly. If she drives a tractor, I should drive a tractor. Only then am I equal. He says this attitude is terribly wrong. Remember, even science has shown that there is no duplication in creation. No two snowflakes are exactly the same. As such, you are also unique. You have been created unique with certain abilities that no other person can do. And that's your swadharma. He says, your individual duty. So whatever it is that is a unique capability that this person holds is your swadharma. And he says, find out what your swadharma is. Ask yourself, how do I feel when doing certain things? Does something come easily? Is it natural for me? Or am I trying to imitate somebody? First, take stock of your natural inclination and your capability, which is your taste, temperament, and capacity. With some things, it's so natural, you're like a fish in the water. You just know, that's what I meant to do. And in Sanskrit, that's called your swadharma. But remember that swadharma is different from karma, which is just an action based on a selfish interest. Swadharma is something righteous. It's something completely natural to you that you could do to benefit others. And that's swadharma. You can't say, my swadharma is to steal. I feel naturally inclined to take something from somebody's pocket. It's to my taste. He says, no, the word dharma always implies the benefit of others, and there's no personal desire behind it. Think what your swadharma is and try to do it. If you're an expert cook, then that's your swadharma. It just came to you naturally. Good, cook for everybody. But if you're naturally inclined to work somewhere in the field, then that's your swadharma at this time. Your swadharma may change over the years. As you grow, your thinking becomes different. The swadharma of a baby is to crawl, an adult to walk. It can change, but it just flows. It's not that you consciously decide saying, that's no good, I'd like to do this instead. It flows. Even without your knowledge or planning, new things come. And he gives an example. He says, I can give you an example from my own life. From the very beginning, I never planned anything. Even from the time of birth and childhood, I was taken to school, from there to high school, from there into the business field. All this happened so naturally. It wasn't that I said this is no good and this is nice. I got some special education in a technical field, but later I was naturally drawn to take care of a temple. Look at that, he says. From technical education to temple management. But it happened so naturally. So I just went along. I moved from one place to another until I went to Rishikesh. Even from there, naturally I was pushed to Ceylon, Sri Lanka, and from there to Far East countries, all by nature and without my planning. And from there, naturally into Europe, and later into New York. Probably that's why they call me a naturalized citizen. See, it develops. Remember that you've been brought into this world not for your job. You have nothing to do here. You have nothing to gain, nothing to lose. You didn't come planned. Did you consciously plan to be born in California in the womb of so-and-so? No. You were just pushed along. You are brought along stage by stage. You don't have any responsibility of your own. Remember that. You don't come according to your own plan. You are not going to leave according to your own plan. It's a good one to remember. You have been brought here and you will be kept here as long as that one up there needs you. Whoever it is, the minute he or she thinks your job is over, all the Divine One has to do is just turn off the switch. No air will enter your lungs. Finished. The doctors say,
Finished.
The doctors say, heart failure. The yogis say, stopped breathing. The breath refused to go in. That's it. Finished. Somebody was pumping the air in and out and stopped pumping. So you don't get any air anymore. Finished. So he says, it's okay, just flow. Feel the unseen hand directing you every minute, taking you along from one thing to another. Know that it's always unplanned by you and for the good of everybody. And that's Swadharma. But very often people think some other person's work would be better. That's the tendency of the mind. The other's grass is always greener. Turn the tide of that mentality. Know that you are wanted. You have been sent here and given special skills. You might think, I don't seem to have any special skill. But you eat and sleep, don't you? Even these are special skills. Don't belittle yourself. Don't degrade yourself thinking, I'm no good. I'm wasting my time. I'm a burden to people. People go crazy thinking like that. You aren't a burden to anybody. If that supreme intelligence thinks that you are a burden to somebody, it won't be wasting the breath on you. The next minute, it will be turned off. Finished. God is no fool to keep you as a burden here and still keep you and put breath into you. Hariom Tat Sat.
I found out there's a loophole if you die and you go up and you say, I'm not done helping people yet. And then you can pray to an angel and they might bring you back. You really have to be sincere about helping.
But it will only be if God chooses to agree. Still, even that, not in your control, my dear.
Yeah.
This seems so profound to me because, like, my whole life it's been the opposite of exactly what's being shared. It's been like me trying to work out in my mind, why am I here? What am I to do? I don't have any skills. I don't feel I don't fit in. I mean, literally just everything the opposite of this, and feeling so like that I didn't fit in anywhere I went, and I don't have any skills. You know, it was. It's a blessing that these kind of things are here,
Isn't it?
to get people. I still see it on Facebook all the time. You know, like people share these types of things that they're
To give us, to
feel
help us understand, to help us have direction
Yeah.
in life. The direction's actually here. but in the mental process we get in the way of it. Thank you for sharing. Anything else to be shared this morning? Jagger or Dave? There is a way out of the madness.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jagger or Dave? Okay, then let's close with final prayers and arati. Page 174. Is that it? Okay, thank you. Om Jaya Jaya Arid.
Well, I started chanting on playing with him.
Good for you.
All right, Ma.
Oh, dear Lord. Oh, Triumphakam Yajame, Suradim Pushtivadanam, Orvai Rukameva Vandanam, Ritor Mokshiyamam Ritat, Om Triumphakam Yajame, Suradim Pushtivadanam, Orvai Rukameva Vandanam, Ritor Mokshiyamam Ritat, Om Triambakam Yajame, Surandim Pushtivardanam, Orvai Rukmeva Vandanam, Ritor Mokshiyamam Ritat, Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Shantu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyanto, Makashit Dukhabhag Bhave, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mritor Ma Mritangamaya, Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purna Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. On below Satguru Shivananda Maharaj Ki Jai, and salutations to all the saints and sages of all traditions.
Jai.
Jai.